What's going on, you guys? Jay here, and welcome back to the channel. So you've managed to make it to Friday, and it's been an absolutely intense week, if I don't mind saying so myself. I think this is going to be one of the more intense weeks we'll go through in 2025. And something I've come to understand is how resilient the LUNC community is itself. And when you're out there, you're supporting the right validators. I think it becomes quite easy for you to remain positives and just keep pushing forward in these negative times. And although, right, you've got all of these different power plays going on, you've got all of this negativity going on, there's also people behind the scenes trying to push the chain forward. And it's other players in the space that are simply shutting down any different kind of proposals that are to do with forward progression, that don't require us creating some kind of crazy decentralized, centralized body. With the SubDAO initiative, really all I saw was Terra Rebels 2.0. All I saw was many different positions that would be created for everybody who's currently bickering, fighting, creating factions, disagreeing with each other, to then go on to disagree more inside this SubDAO. More importantly, we're probably going to see a lot of back and forthing that goes through governance, meaning all we focus on as an ecosystem for the rest of 2025 would be who is going to fill these seats. How can we remove this person from this seat because they're doing something that we don't like? We're essentially creating a centralized layer over a decentralized chain. And from my perspective, if all of these validators are able to enforce and enact a manual rule, being the paid per job rule set that each and everyone supports on chain. Everyone agrees that we will pay a development team at the end, and the development teams have been paid. This is not done automatically. It is a one-to-one trust thing between the developers and the ecosystem. And again, that is manually enforced in a truly decentralized manner. So I'm not buying into all of this stuff. And more importantly, even more important than all of the other points we've raised here, the pushing of the SubDAO was not the right time. This didn't look good for the ecosystem. And essentially, you're pushing us into a corner during a time when we should really be focusing on other things. And we're essentially a wounded animal at this current time. We're limping a little bit. We're not doing too good. We're unsure if we're going to get delisted with USTC on Binance. We need to tread very carefully. And the way we got into the original agreement with Terra Rebels was because we rushed, because we were downed like an animal. We were injured. We're not going to get ourselves into a situation like this. And what I didn't want to do was bring the really kind of samey personal information and sort of drawing that into the proposer and really getting very personal. But what a lot of people didn't understand, regardless of Strafe Cole having a hand in it, some other people having a hand in it, this actually came originally from a group that are known for making up stories, that are known for impersonating Binance staff. And the proposer themselves actually put an interesting tweet out where they are more or less stating they were once part of the community first validator, which is Greenpeace. We've gone over here on the channel before, impersonating Binance, and they're just more or less confirming everything we went over in the video. But the interesting part is where they're saying people were investing based on these stories, and I just couldn't sit and watch people do that after learning what I did. So I said enough, and when I did, I was given the ultimatum. Now, one of the defensive points that were actually being used by the proposer is the fact that they're creating this committee, but they're not going to be filling the seats themselves, and that it would be done through governance and you would be removed through governance. But a lot of people seem to forget, and I don't think the proposer has forgotten this. I think it's intentional to get you to move an inch to go a mile. Is the validator set can be very corrupt. We've got validators running multiple nodes out in public. We've got validators who are network noding, meaning that they've got more than 2 nodes. When we don't really know what's going on in private when it comes down to the usage of multiple nodes being one validator. We also couldn't rule out the fact that validators wouldn't band together. We're seeing this currently roll out at the moment. Now, a group of validators could band together to secure those seats and then halt any governance attempt to remove them from those seats. So from my perspective, the community, the chain, the ecosystem has done well not to fall victim during a time when it's very vulnerable, when it's very convincing, when it feels like it might be a good thing, but it's just going to take us back to Terra Rebels. So let's move on to a more pressing issue that's undergoing on chain at the moment. And I really do think this is something we need to pay attention to. This is becoming very familiar to the way LUNC actually portrayed himself: God complex, projectionism, outright lies, pummeling people with false information, flinging mud, and simply hoping things will stick. This began back in January 18th, and I didn't really pay much attention to it, but I am now. Charles Hoshkin is the lead of Cardano, and what we've actually seen is a big interest from him in stablecoins, more specifically algorithmic stablecoins. Mr. Diamond Hands was fortunate enough to get a reply back in January, and we can see that Charles Hoshkin has once again come back, saying that he would love to learn more about LUNC and the fact that he has a lot of ideas about algorithmic stablecoins. Who's the lead? Mr. Diamond Hands has actually gone on to attempt to make direct contact with Charles Hoshkin himself. And as I said, many validators are quite corrupt. If they can secure a piece of the pie for themselves, they're definitely going to do it. So this got the gears turning in my head, as it always does, because essentially they were the validator that voted at the very last second. And I don't mean in the last 20 minutes. I mean in the last I think it was around 1 minute. They came in, they shut this proposal down, and they really prevented any forward movement with, you guessed it, our algorithmic stablecoin. Exactly what Charles Hoshkin is interested in. Seeing down here at the bottom, LUNC Live coming in and voting at the very, very end. So this for me was quite unusual. And the reason why is we've gone through and we've burnt the Mirror Protocol assets as an ecosystem. Everybody was very positive on that. It was your usual suspects actually going in and voted no. As you can see, a massive support on the yes compared to the no. So this in itself, we've seen validators already go through, they've burnt the Mirror Protocol assets, they've burnt the Anchor Protocol assets to go suddenly, no, we don't want to see these USTC assets burn, and we don't want to see them freeze either. So there was no middle ground for LUNC Live, again, coming in on that last 1 to 2 minutes, shutting this proposal down. So this starts to raise eyebrows. You start to think, well, why is this validator portraying one thing in public, acting like they're good for the ecosystem? They want progression, to actually be doing the total opposite behind the scenes. What I actually start to do is think, maybe did Mr. Diamond Hands have that direct call with Charles Hodgkinson, and is this all part of a bigger plan to gain control over USTC? Is this actually playing into their ball court with USTC being delisted? And is this why we've seen the halting of any progress around USTC from someone who's so supportive of burning and has been in the past? When I said they've been brash and they've been bold, Charles Hodgkinson has tweeted recently stating, never chase power, create it. And Mr. Diamond Hands has come out and stated they are creating it with LUNC and Wezo. And Wezo World is now registered in the great state of Wyoming. And they've registered this under Lunar Classic LLC. So when it comes down to centralization and attempts behind the scenes to gain some kind of legal authority over the chain where they can portray themselves as the lead of the ecosystem, well, this really tops the cake. This really puts them in a position where they could effectively go out. They're attempting some kind of power play, and on top of that, they're halting any progress with USTC during a time when they're clearly having some kind of direct connection with the Cardano creator, who's simply interested in algorithmic stablecoins. He's interested in the lead of our ecosystem, and he really does want to work with our blockchain. So although, like I said, we've quelled this one power play, we've got another one brewing behind the scenes. So something that's quite funny is the back and forthing with validators during this time, accusing each other of centralized attempts to manipulate the chain or control the chain. But when it comes down to people now bickering on X, back and forthing about who's being decentralized, who's being centralized, this one kind of tops it, because Vegas himself has spoken about enhancing decentralization and the fact that he would like to reduce validator voting power by 75%, lower the quorum threshold from 40% to 30%. This guy doesn't even go through governance himself. He doesn't set an example himself. And honestly, you just have to laugh at this one, because Vegas took it upon himself to work actively behind the scenes in a centralized manner to have some of the information possibly changed in regards to USTC's classification, and hopefully it will now be classified as a speculative asset. So this one guy who's proposing we should go through governance, we should do things through governance, we should also reduce the voting power, we should be more decentralized, has act centralized with a contact that he has centralized to himself, which is the bridge to Binance. We've also then got Mr. Diamond Hands, who's also attempting some kind of a centralized USTC takeover whilst halting all USTC progress on chain, whilst also acting in a centralized manner to become the lead of the ecosystem, whilst also taking the name of the chain itself and turning it into an LLC, is accusing Vegas of acting centralized. So like I said, you've got all of these people, right, that are bickering on X. They're throwing mud at each other. They're accusing each other of all of these different things. And I'm just here presenting these facts to you guys on the channel. This isn't even stressful for me at this moment in time. It's more just a situation where you throw water and the facade, it falls away. You start to see the real Vegas, the real Mr. Diamond Hands, the real LUNC Live. And I know a lot of people don't even know that LUNC Live themselves prevented the biggest, and I really do mean it, it would have been the biggest USTC burn we would ever have seen, ever, period. It would have set a Guinness World Record for USTC burns, and they're out there working actively to try do something with Charles Hoskin to centralize USTC while they're halting it. Surely it's in their best intentions to progress USTC, to push USTC further than it's ever been before. Why do you go, right, from being a huge supporter of the Mirror and Anchor protocol assets burning to not even wanting to see the assets be frozen? What does it change if you freeze them? Nothing. It provides positive momentum, but nothing actually changes. So why say no to it? Why not just say no to it days before like you normally do? Why wait until the very last minute to do it? These are all of the different questions people should start to ask each other. And the fact that most of these validators are coming out like at the end of Pink Unicorns, stake with my validator, you shouldn't stake with them. I'm at the point now where I just build. I just build some more, work on LUNC Dash, build some more, work on Project Remedy, build some more, work on Pengs, build some more, work on our metaverse, build some more, update some stuff, and just keep building. And if people want to stake with me, if people want to delegate with me, then that's totally up to them. I dropped the whole thing of, stake with me, this validator is bad. You can't inform people in that manner. It's clear that you're just being a greedy little... But let me know what you guys think about all of this stuff. I wanted to give you guys a status update. I wanted to point all of the obvious out. I wanted to show you all of the connections between it. And more importantly, I wanted to give you guys my perspective on things. I know you guys like to hear what I'm thinking, what I'm currently doing, how I'm placing my mind, how I'm sort of navigating this unusual situation, which tends to pop up every 4 or 5 months. We go through this same thing of power play after power play after power play. But there's going to be a major announcement today, guys. So yeah, stay safe, stay humble, stay aware, have a good Friday, and I'll catch you in the next one.